everybody, welcome to the show. I appreciate you tuning in for another brand new review. Don't forget, every Wednesday night from now until Halloween at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, I'm gonna have some new spooky streaming suggestions for all of you to go and check out. I know we're here in October. Halloween is right around the corner. Let me do that work for you folks. I'm gonna point out some of the best horror films for you to check out on all your favorite streaming services. But don't forget, throughout the week, I am still dropping countless reviews in the world of horror, whether it's movies, TV shows, games, books, whatever. You don't want to miss any of that, so the best way to stay on top of it is to get subscribed to my link tree. And you can do that by going to linktr.ee/T-Scary-Movie. If you get subscribed to my link tree, that's going to give you access to the YouTube page, the video versions of the show, to your favorite podcasting platforms, the audio-only versions of the show, to my Letterboxd page for my written reviews and my movie rankings throughout the year, to my TikTok page for my short horror content, including movie news and movie premieres, to my Twitch page for my horror gaming, including The Thing Remastered and Phasmophobia, and to my Fangoria shop page where you can enjoy a 20% discount off anything in the Fangoria shop, including a yearly subscription to the physical magazine. Take advantage of that, folks. Hit that subscribe button, as the more followers I get, the more content I can put out for all of you. So, what are we talking about here tonight, folks? Well, just a few days ago, Max finally gave us the long-awaited release of the new adaptation of Salem's Lot. If you're not aware of this one, this film was actually shot a few years ago, and it's been sitting on the shelf ever since, as Warner Brothers has been trying to figure out what they were going to end up doing with it. They had discussed the theatrical release. There was even talks that it was going to end up being shelved permanently as a tax write-off, but ultimately it made its way to Max. I have checked it out, and that is what we are discussing here tonight. So, let's not waste any time. Let's jump on into things here. If you have not seen the trailer for Salem's Lot, this tells the story of author Ben Mears, who returns to his hometown of Jerusalem's Lot to find out about his past and who he is ultimately as a person. But as Ben returns to the lot, he finds out that a new resident has appeared in the lot and is seeking to turn the town into his own new personal coven. There it is, folks. This is Salem's Lot. This is the third adaptation of the classic Stephen King story. If you recall, we had the 2004 miniseries that was on TNT with Rob Lowe, and then we had the 1979 original one, if y'all remember that one, to where our vampire Barlow had the look of Count Orlok from Nosferatu. Now, there's a couple ways you can definitely approach this new adaptation of the story. For those of y'all who are familiar with the work, whether you read the novel or you checked out either of the two previous miniseries, then this movie is really going to play out almost like a best of collection, or like at the beginning of a lot of sitcoms or cartoons from the 90s, a previously on Salem's Lot. And honestly, that is both a strength and it's also a detractor from the story itself, because a lot of us who are familiar with it, we're going to see a lot of those familiar beats. Ben Mears returning to town, the Glick boys being the first victims, teacher Matt Burke believing that vampires are running wild, student Mark Petrie being the next person who truly believes everything that's going on, and on and on and on. All those beats are definitely there, but the thing is that the movie is trying to contain all of those elements in a 2-hour runtime. The previous adaptations were expanded into 3 hours, and it really gave us a chance to get to know the characters more and expand on the dark secrets of the lot itself. Because, as a lot of you already know, a lot of the people living in Jerusalem's Lot were not really great people, even before Barlow showed up and turned them into vampires. And the entire point of the novel and those two previous adaptations was that we get to learn all these dark secrets and the skeletons that were in everybody's closet. And this adaptation very much does not give us that. The movie itself is really trying to actually be a more tight vampire thriller than it is trying to give us more intrigue and mystery like we've gotten before. So, if you're a fan of the previous works of this, you might have a bit of an issue seeing characters who play bigger parts in those adaptations not really show up here, basically be related to cameos, certain storylines not really explored at all. We don't get into that grimy underbelly in the least bit. But the flip of that, though, is that Gary Dauberman has kind of found a way to really engineer more vampire action for those looking for something just a little bit more fast-paced this Halloween season. Now, I'm not saying that's a great thing, because I know a lot of you who are, again, fans of this material are going to struggle with really not seeing maybe some of your favorite characters really fleshed out. Mark Petrie, honestly, is the most expanded character in this entire story. That's even more than Ben Mears, and that's only because Petrie ends up getting a full character arc in this story. But outside of him, everybody else is kind of only getting bits and pieces and scraps, and that's going to be a big problem if you're looking for a character piece, again, like our other adaptations are. Now, with that said, if you're new to the Salem's Lot, I say franchise, and I get it, there's the third adaptation, but I don't know if I say it's a franchise. But if you're new to Salem's Lot, either way, I think you might have an easier time watching this because you're not really aware of the intricacies of all the characters that are living in Salem's Lot. I do very much recommend that you go and check out the 2004 adaptation. That has always been my favorite, is the one I push on everybody. It's available on Prime Video for you to check out right now. That will really expand on what all these characters are up to and the seediness that's going on. But again, coming into this all new, you're just going to get vampire action scene after action scene after action scene. And I have to feel that maybe Warner Brothers chose to cut this down because they didn't want to put in a 3-hour film into theaters, and instead wanted this just to be something quick and easy for somebody to jump in, jump out, and probably never think about that again. And interestingly enough, Gary Dauberman actually did an interview recently to where he talked about how his original cut of the film was 3 hours, and how he really did get into a lot more of the characters here of the film and explored, again, all those skeletons in the closet, all the drama that was going on behind closed doors. But studio interference, and that might lead to why exactly this film has had such a complicated journey over the last 3 years. You know, and on that note of Gary Dauberman, I spent this past week in Universal Orlando for Halloween Horror Nights, and I got to spend some time with my good friend Stuff Scared Chris, who you absolutely should be following on TikTok for some amazing horror content. But he had pointed out that with Dauberman's career, there had seemingly been a pattern of the projects he's doing being sequels or spin-offs to bigger pieces, to where another writer or director had put maybe a little bit more nuance, a little bit more exposition, just a little bit more of a complete work into what they put out. And when Dauberman picked it up, it's kind of like a bit of that gets stripped away. And you know, we have talked about the possible worry of why this film sat on the shelf for 3 years. And honestly, I don't think that's the problem here with Dauberman's work on Salem's Lot. Because again, to reference that interview, he put together a 3-hour cut of the film, which would have put it right at the same timing of the original miniseries and the 2004 remake that got done. So I have to imagine with this movie pretty much having nothing but vampire stuff in it, literally, it goes from beat to beat to beat to beat to beat. There's way more vampire action in this than either of those miniseries. The only thing that could be left is exposition. So I'm curious if we'll ever get to see those lost 60 minutes at some point if this does get a physical release. But the fact that it was released directly to Max doesn't bode too well for any kind of physical release or us getting to see that at some point. But gonna cross our fingers regardless for that. Now, in regards to the cast, again, Lewis Pullman plays Ben Mears, Mackenzie Lee is here as Susan Norden, Alfre Woodard, it's Dr. Cody. There's a few other ones here as well, but y'all, I hate to say it, but again, the only person here who really has much of a personality is going to be Jordan Preston Carter as Mark Petrie. Mark Petrie is really given the most to do in this film, and even though we get to know a little bit about Ben and Susan, and we get to see their budding relationship, and they tell us a little bit about their past and what they're hopeful for their future, we don't really follow up with that all too much. Same with teacher Matt Burke, played by Bill Camp. Again, Matt's interesting because he's the one who immediately believes that vampires are infesting the town of Jerusalem's Lot, but again, we don't really get much for Matt outside of that and the fact that he's maybe the only teacher who actually cares in town, as everybody else has seemingly fallen by the wayside, caring about anybody else but themselves, which again feeds into more of the exposition that we just don't know about. You know, I'm sounding like I'm really down on this, but I'm really honestly not. It took a little bit getting into it to realize what was exactly going on in this cut of the film, but I do understand the fact that they just wanted to get the things and they started killing off characters like really quick, and we got way more vampire action. And honestly, if you do look back at those two previous adaptations, the thing is that all the action going on with Barlow and Straker and all the victims of the town itself, they're fairly spread out throughout both of these miniseries. You have 3 hours to tell it, so you don't have to rush anything at all. But in a 2-hour runtime, you have to get to everything really fast, and that's just the way it really plays out. And I didn't mind that because, again, I felt that it was more action-filled and there was more things going on with the story itself. So you may not care about the characters, but at least there's some good vampire action in it. Honestly though, while I like the design of Barlow, very, very similar to, again, the 70s miniseries, I think that the way that Barlow is portrayed later on in the film didn't really mesh those two ideas together that well, honestly. To be quite frank, he kind of came off a bit like, I don't know, like a Russian gangster, honestly, if that makes any sense at all. I might be crazy. Let me know in the comment section if you felt the same way. Love the appearance of Barlow, but Barlow is the only vampire that looks the way that he specifically does, or else everybody else in the film kind of looks like the traditional human-looking vampire in most of the medias that we see with vampires these days. Now, there are some scares in the film for sure. I think that the depiction of like child vampires in it is terrifying, and the sheer number of them later on is really awesome as well too. And on top of that, the action really, really does work. There's a lot of foreshadowing earlier on in the film, and a lot of stuff does really get paid off on, including the drive-in movie theater, which we're told this is where everybody is going to be at most nights. This is where you find out all the drama, all the gossip, what everybody's doing in their lives, and that plays a very pivotal role by the end of the film itself. And honestly, I was a big fan of the ending. It was definitely more action-packed than previous incarnations. And they do actually give us a mostly different ending from what we've gotten here before. It doesn't drastically change the story, but it is more of a finite ending than we've gotten, again, in the source material itself. Now, whether or not you're into this here, a lot of that's going to depend on if you like Dauberman's previous work. He's a stalwart in the Conjuring universe. He's done a lot of work for the Annabelle films, The Nun as well too. He wrote the script for It Chapter 2. A lot of those films are very much not looked upon in high regard, so if you're not a big fan of Gary Dauberman, this might not work out for you. But honestly, I do feel if you're a fan of Salem's Lot, it's kind of easy to enjoy this because you know there are better adaptations out there, and this is just playing the hits. Either way, check it out. Folks, this month I'm giving away an Abigail Funko Pop. All you have to do is comment here on a video in the month of October. So I want to know, if you've checked out all 3 adaptations of Salem's Lot, which one has been your favorite? Of course, I am a big fan of 2004 Rob Lowe's version, but we have the 1979 original, and of course, we now have the 2024 movie. Let me know in the comment section for a chance to win Abigail here, and hit that subscribe button. Got more great reviews coming y'all's way. I appreciate you checking this one out, folks. That's it tonight. My name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared. Boy here is a big fan of Fangoria. So, if you want to check out the world's best horror magazine that's out there, get a chance to get yourself your own subscription, which I just got my first one back in 2022, and I don't regret it for a second. But if you want your own Fangoria subscription, or you like the Fangoria merchandise, then head over to the Fangoria shop and use my link if you want to save yourself some money, folks. That's an easy one to remember. Just go to shop.fangoria.com/AXDEW. Again, that's shop.fangoria.com/AXDEW, or use my specific code AXDEW at checkout. You can save 20% off your entire order, and that implies 2 subscription and one-time orders as well. You don't want to miss out, folks, because with the magnitude of horror movies we've had released in the last few years, and with what we have on the horizon, Fangoria is going to be your #1 source for all that great, juicy, bloody information in the world of horror. So again, head to shop.fangoria.com. Hey there, folks! Thanks for tuning in to T-Watch This Scary Movie. I appreciate you checking out another review or movie news, whether we're talking movies, TV shows, books, or games, whatever, it's all scary. Remember, you can check out new episodes every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on the YouTube page for video. That's youtube.com/C/Theron Reynolds Scary Movie. Again, youtube.com/C/Theron Reynolds Scary Movie. And you can check out the audio version on all your favorite podcasting platforms. Just search T Watch the Scary Movie or TWASM. Don't forget, my name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.